Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you conniving, money. Money never, money never, money never, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you've been up for a bum, in habits there'll be money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in habits there'll be money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now I don't want you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me work for. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This is all the money that me work for. I said money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Tom's TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Beep, beep, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, which has ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Pastor, poor people governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Quinton Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
Oh yes, fans, it's Big People time. This Easter Sunday, it's brunch and Big People treasure hunt at Club Twilight Sideline and Buxton North. Twilight Promotions and Camps TV presents the Big People Easter brunch and treasure hunt. Starting time 11 o'clock. Special appearance by Michael Spencer, one-man band and popular DJ. Come on down, Club Twilight. This Easter Sunday, 11 a.m. It's brunch and Big People treasure hunt. Win lots of cash, lots of fun, and lots of relaxation. Do you want to know more about 19th and 20th century Guyana? Then become a part of the Institute of Quick Skills episodes in Guyanese history. It's an online 6 week course beginning on March 19th.
Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. Together, my comrades, we will build our new Guyana, a country where all are equal opportunity. So let us begin now to show loyalty to Guyana by showing love and respect for all Guyanese. My brothers, my sisters, we will live and die here together. Come on to one people, one nation, one destiny. For harmonious living, cooperation will be forever. In work and play as we live as proud Guyanese. Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. Well, it's time we settle all the nations in the interior. Our natural resources are there in great quantity. And we will do farming and establish towns by the border. We'll grow more food so we could fill our Guyanese. My greatest desire is to serve my country, Guyana, and sincerely help my Guyana to move along. Our government asks us that we study hard and we learn the things that will help Guyana to become strong. Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. To help develop Guyana the free.
Morning, are you morning? Oh, are you do good morning? Emily Durant, you may call.
Silence all round, in the storage unit of toil. Remember thy older Lord, the children of the youngest son. Great is the task that thou hast given. I will not show my truth to hide. To tell yourselves that we are one in thy great universe of love. Put not in vain betrayal, another God of great and great, another glory and of hope, another love and unity. O children of Guyana, rise, rise up and sing with crowning tears, and bless the Lord that gave you birth, and how to stand and thy years.
Darling, it won't be this way always.
It's not all this time, so y'all don't worry that. It is now 22 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. It is Thursday, the second day of April, and I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. What do you call this? Today's Holy Thursday. Is it Holy Thursday today? I think so, you know. I don't remember the Christian religious calendar like that, if you call it that. But I think today's Holy Thursday. Tomorrow definitely is Good Friday. Good. And so tomorrow there will be no program. hmm Today is Thursday. Mr. Jordan is going to be on. I'll call him shortly. In the meantime, between time, how y'all doing? How was y'all last night? How was y'all yesterday? How the Easter preparations coming? Who is coming to the brunch on Sunday? Sunday is the brunch, don't forget. Y'all want to know there the brunch? Oh God. when I start this in the menu on the brunch, I said, well, to that is $5,000 you charge to this bunch and all them things this you got on this bunch part, no? Is where you gonna man a charity or what? You know the funny thing with me is um I don't know. I see business different, you know. I see business as community. When some people squeezing like blood out of you, goodness, I can't do it. I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. As everybody say profit food, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. You know? So you're going to have a white spread at the bunch. I ain't telling nobody what it is. You gotta come forget. But you're going to have a white spread. Um, you're going to get some of the things that you haven't eaten, I think, in a long time. Um, as a matter of fact, as I'm talking about things you haven't eaten in a long time, I thought about cooking some shine rice to the brunch. I said, listen, every day people eating stone rice and big fancy fried rice and thing and the well, last year I'll eat some shine rice. Hmm? Some shine rice, especially some saltfish shine rice. Well, last year I eat some saltfish shine rice. But you know, the people I talk to and I seek advice, someone I share ideas, it's hey, don't worry the thing at all. Don't worry the shine rice thing. You can't eat what you shine rice at bunch. So y'all got 3 minutes or 5 minutes to disagree or agree with me. Should I do some shine rice to the bunch? Right? Should I do some shine rice to the bunch? As a matter of fact, usually lunch is between, you know, as they say, breakfast and lunch. So you take something heavier than breakfast, and in most instances lighter than lunch. or so something that would tide you through. So bunch to me doesn't require a lot of rice, if any at all. But Guyanese people, unless they get rice, they ain't eat. Unless Guyanese people get rice, they ain't eat. As one friend said, why you guys do some rice? Because if you can give them people that know rice, then you think they get value for the money. Well, I don't. What y'all think about that? Is it true that Guyanese guy get rice to satisfy, to feel satisfied, or I think in an instance like this at a bunch, if you ain't get no rice, people don't feel they get value for the money. Y'all talk to me about that. But the bunch is going to be good. Oh, the menu is going to be wonderful. I can tell you that. Um, oh, this thing everybody. If you're looking for bacon sausage, don't come. We ain't doing none. Bacon sausage is everyday food. Mm-hmm. Bacon sausage is everyday food. Mm. Now yes, I was saying, don't ask me for no bacon sausage. We ain't gonna do none. Bacon sausage is everyday thing. You see this egg here? This blue egg? The stuffing has started. The developing wheat, right? This is a blue egg. You know blue is my favorite color, right? So there ain't got nothing I can do without a little blue inside. And this is a pink egg. I don't know what species of birds would lay pink eggs, but this is a pink egg. The stuffing has also started. And then, of course, you got a golden egg. The golden egg. So there are these three large eggs that, under different circumstances, right? Under different circumstances, people will win or be able to go home with these three eggs, or one of these three eggs. Under different circumstances, you can be the owner of one of these eggs, right? The golden egg, you have to bid for it. Definitely, you have to bid for the golden egg, right? Nothing golden comes easily, right? So you have to bid for that. The other two, we're going to work out how you're going to get it. Um, you got prize money, you got cash money that you can find in eggs. You got all kinds of goodies, man. We got some goodies here. We got red eggs too. I can't tell you the story behind the red eggs, but we got red eggs. It is 28 minutes past in 7 o'clock. Oh, let me call Mr. Jordan and stop taking up his time. Um, but yes, up until this morning, not so long ago, somebody requested a ticket or more from me. Um, and so I'm saying to you, if you intend to come to the brunch and you haven't bought your ticket, hit me up and say, Mr. Amsterdam, I'm definitely coming to the brunch. I'm going to hold you to your word. If you ain't turn up on a cater for you, you're going to just cuss out on the game and so, right? I'm going to just cuss out on the program and so, and tell them what an unreliable person you are and things. I'm waiting for cuss a particular man being in my inbox every day for several weeks because we spoke about me doing some advertisement for him for some big and tall clothes and shoes and stuff like that. And the day I sent the man two flyers, I think, right, promoting the stuff, is the last I heard from him, right? So I waited. I just give people time, and I just drop hint every now and again because I'm waiting to see what is happening because just every day this man in my inbox, every day before this thing was done. This thing was done now. I forwarded to him. He said, "Great, great, great, nice. I like it and so on. We gonna be in touch." Labor went into that, there's a cost to doing that. Good. So hint to Benny will make question, go take notice. Right? Yes, somebody say I must get green egg too. Green egg. Alright, I'm not gonna look for green egg, but time short. Anyhow, we're gonna see if we get a green egg. Oh yeah, I got green eggs. I think I got green eggs. Yes, I got green eggs. Yes. Anyways, let me call Mr. Jordan. I was saying if you're going to, if you know you definitely plan on coming to the brunch and you haven't bought your ticket because of distance and so on and so forth. I have no problem with that. I understand that. But just give us a head up and say, well, I'm coming definitely, and I'm coming with so many persons, or I'm coming alone. Please cater for us, right? Because I don't want you to come and then bring an unfair eat. I mean, there will be a whole lot of stuff there. I doubt whether we're going to run out of food, but I just want to be on the safe side. Because I don't like to see food wasted either. Mr. Jordan, good morning.
Good morning to you,
It's
Kadaki.
Thursday. It's today that the Skull Holy Thursday, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Oh, oh,
indeed.
okay.
In
So I
fact,
remember
this whole week is called Holy Week.
Holy Week.
Began with
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
began with Palm Sunday, right? That began Holy Week.
You know, this is a man who was a servant although in the Anglican Church.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a
I
thing that
can't profess to have been a server in Catholic Church, but I know I was baptized in Nazarene Church. Then I switched to Methodist, and now I'm an Anglican.
Okay,
So,
you are
but
where I am not.
common the common thread is that I've remained a Christian.
Yes, that is important. That is important. Only Vanessa Yonet, the ticket is $5,000. $5,000 for a ticket. Small change and buy say small things. In $5,000 with 5,000 walk in the market, broke quick. Yes, $5,000 in the ticket, Vanessa. All right. So Mr. Jordan, it's Thursday. We got a long weekend coming up. According to the Rastaman say, big up Judas. He sell out Christ, but he give you a long weekend. Yeah.
Yes, yes, indeed. Thankful Thursday. Thank the Lord for bringing us through. Um, some didn't make it, but let's start with those who made it, and they should thank the Lord that they actually made it. And one of them who is thanking the Lord today is my adopted aunt, my wife's aunt. You have the echo there, um, Kadaki.
All right. Go on in a minute.
Good. Yes, my wife's aunt, who I also call my aunt, Aunt Dottie, is 101 today in Jamaica. So I send out greetings and best wishes for her continued long living and healthy living. 101 today, Aunt Dottie in Jamaica. And of course, among those who didn't make it is Chan Santoki, former president, immediate former president of Suriname. Santoki, as you know, in his then capacity as Justice Minister of Suriname, had fearlessly gotten rid of Guyana's local Pablo Escobar. And instead of deporting him to Guyana, he sent him on his way to Trinidad, where he was renditioned by the United States and taken to the United States, where he served a long period before returning while the coalition was in government. And of course, you know, people said, well, it is the coalition fault that they didn't try him when he returned. I don't know how it could be the coalition's fault. You don't try people when there is no evidence. There's a lot of accusations, but when you go into the court, you have to be able to prove those accusations with evidence. And I don't think the PPP government was leaving any evidence around for us to find. Because indeed, the WikiLeaks cables at that time, subsequently, had indicated that our local Pablo Escobar was so deep into the government that they were mortally afraid of him and that he would talk if he were pursued and prosecuted. So I don't think the PPP was waiting to or hanging around evidence for us to come in and hang our Pablo Escobar and ultimately hang them. So it's not a case where the coalition didn't want. Don't forget, when he was returned, he was immediately taken into custody. But as I said, you can't hold people forever, especially when no evidence is forthcoming. So Mr. Santoki died suddenly at age 67, and he will be remembered for that particular incident. He will, of course, also be remembered as the president who couldn't deliver, who made a promise but couldn't deliver. And that was the promise of issuing licenses, fishing license, to our fisher folks. It never came true, and he must have been visibly embarrassed that he couldn't make good on his promise. But never make a promise if you're not in a position to either influence its outcome or to actually ensure that the outcome is there. Because the composition of the Suriname parliament is a wide set of parties representing various sectional and other interests, and therefore it's unlike this PPP government here where they represent only their interests, but he couldn't deliver. And again, we're seeing it with this current president, where out of the blue, our folks in Barbados now have to pay as much as $2,500 per trip traversing the river. So commerce is going to come to a standstill sooner than later if those fees aren't removed. And it all comes back to this government's tepid approach in its arrangements, discussions, and so on with Suriname. And it started way back when the government came back in 1992. They proceeded against the advice of friends in CARICOM and locally to remove all barriers to the entry of Suriname into CARICOM, because there was a barrier, a main barrier that Suriname could not get past, which is that no new entrant into CARICOM could have any outstanding border issue with a member of CARICOM. And it is the PPP who removed that barrier and allowed Suriname free entry unconditionally into CARICOM. And since then, for reasons known perhaps only to them, but is as clear as day to be seen as it evolves, they've been trying to get an access, the Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname access, and were prepared to give up as much as they can to get that access going. Witness their wholehearted and wholesale attempt to get a quarantine bridge across a river that has been disputed, but they silently handed over to Suriname. Witness that they're trying to get that bridge, a bridge that Santoki was also interested in, but didn't have the wherewithal economically, because he was under pressure from the IMF. Witness the new president, who appears to have zero interest in the bridge as a top priority, but Guyana is pushing bridge over a river that they now have given up, in the sense that they don't control. Pushing a bridge when we have unsolved border issues with Suriname, especially their claim to our new river triangle. And I've gone through this. some sessions before, so I won't use our authority. But just to show that against, for example, the warnings of former President Granger, a historian of some repute, who had warned the government to be careful with the negotiations with Suriname for the bridge across the river when there were outstanding issues, top of which was the border issue. But we push in. We went to China to sign agreement to get money, to back Suriname to get the money, to get this bridge, while nobody could tell you who will own the bridge. And if the ferry is anything to go by, you know you're going to have a rough time with Suriname over the ownership of the bridge. Even the ferry, which was financed by the European Union, had large issues and was almost derailed until Guyana gave up and gave in to Suriname's request that the boat must sleep in Suriname. In other words, then Suriname was the premier in this two-country thing. Suriname was the premier country, and the boat had to sleep in Suriname. But Suriname wanted Guyana to maintain the boat while they tacitly owning the boat, even though it was supposed to be joint ownership. So our continued tepid approach is not winning us anything in relation to Suriname. But as the president himself has recognized, our open sepulchre has allowed Suriname forms to come into Guyana unhindered. And in the case of Rhodesia, they had taken the government to court in relation to the environmental tax, the arbitrary and discriminatory environmental tax imposed by the then PPP government. And as a result of the CCJ's ruling in favor of Rhodesia, it is the coalition government that had to pay billions of dollars to Rhodesia and other companies who suffered similarly as a result of the discriminatory environmental tax imposed by the then PPP government. And you know, you have other Suriname businesses in Guyana. Suriname Airways flies there. Then you have Rosignol Butchery. You have a life insurance company there in Church Street. All kinds of businesses in Suriname coming in here unhindered. But you don't have reciprocated business or actions by the Suriname government. And cry as he will and protest as he will, it will not move the Suriname government from the fees that they have imposed for a river that they claim is theirs. $2,500 per trip in the river that those Barbicians, upper quarantine people will have to pay if they want to fetch sand, lumber, and so on in that river going forward. The fees had been introduced last week, I think, and will continue until Suriname feels that they have a need to review it, if at all. Well, they can go brave. This wasn't a position taken by a PNC government or an APNU government. And weakness can never be a show of strength. Weakness can never be a show of strength. That is when a government doesn't want to consult widely and listen to its people. That is when a government may have other objectives that are not in line with people. And that's when a government can't read the tea leaves. And they have not been able to read those tea leaves since 1992 when they returned. And they gave up their rights, the government's rights, Guyana's rights and allowed Suriname to enter CARICOM unfettered. And this is the whirlwind that they are reaping as a result of that foolish decision. But this is Thursday of the Holy Week, leading up to the crescendo tomorrow. But before we move to tomorrow and we get to today, there was yesterday. And yesterday was Wednesday of the Holy Week. But not just any Wednesday, but Wednesday that is called Spy Wednesday in the Christian lexicon. Because it was the day when Judas Iscariot agreed to betray Jesus. Okay? So it's on Spy Wednesday that he agreed to betray Jesus. And if we recall Matthew 26, verses 14 to 16, in there it is said and is shown that Judas approached the chief priests on that day when he accepted 30 pieces of filthy lucre, 30 pieces of silver, in exchange for identifying a convenient time and place to arrest Jesus away from the crowds. Because, you know, Jesus was arrived there and preaching and drawing crowds and so on, being seen as the Messiah and so on, became the envy of all the kings and so on. And they could find one man named Judas Iscariot who was prepared to accept 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus. So while the plot was finalized on Spy Wednesday, Judas actually led the guards to Jesus to commit the physical act on Holy Thursday. Right? So the betrayal was on Holy Thursday, and the betrayal was in the form of a kiss on the night of Holy Thursday. And this followed the Last Supper, which was the final meal Jesus had with his disciples before the crucifixion. And those who know the Bible will recall that it was at the Last Supper, according to Luke's Gospel, that Jesus said to the 12 disciples, "One of you shall betray me." And he foretold that before the next morning, which will be Good Friday, Peter will thrice deny him. And don't forget, these were disciples of Jesus. One will betray him, one will deny him. And of course, I could well imagine as we sat down at the Last Supper and breaking bread and so on, and Jesus comes out and says, "One of you will betray me." And everybody look around at each other. "Not me, Jesus, not me, not me, I wouldn't do that." But he was more forthright in saying, "Peter, you will thrice deny me." And of course, Peter said, "Not me. No, Jesus, I wouldn't do that." But as we all know, it came to pass. Judas betrayed, and Peter thrice denied him. "I don't know that man. No, I don't know that man." That's what Peter perhaps said to the Roman guards and soldiers when they asked, "Anybody know that man?" "No, not me. I don't know that man. No, never seen him." Peter thrice denied Jesus. And so it was on Good Friday that Jesus was made to carry his crossbeam, on which he was nailed with iron spikes, where for 6 hours he suffered in agony and died between two thieves at around 3 p.m. that afternoon. That is why sometimes on Good Friday around that time, it tends to rain. Some rain falls and the place gets dark around that time. quite reminiscent of what happened around the time of the crucifixion. And the little rain is interpreted to be the tears that would have come from Jesus' eyes. And the darkening of the sky will signify perhaps the dark day, and the dark day of the event that was taking place. The gospel report that 3 hours of darkness, the tearing of the temple veil, an earthquake, and the resurrection that took place 3 days later. Hence on Monday. So the resurrection will have taken place on Monday, and hence our Easter Monday with the flying of kites, where that symbolizes the resurrection and Jesus going up into heaven. The Bible tells us that he shall come again to judge the living and the dead. Some people say the wicked and the dead. Perhaps no different. Some people also says you'll come to judge the quick and the dead. Same thing. The quick identify with the living, and the dead identify with the resurrected, or those who brought to life again. And that in his second coming, Jesus will return to earth to judge all humanity. Those alive at his coming, and those resurrected from the dead. And that this judgment will focus on righteousness, with Jesus acting as the final, fair, and divine arbiter. And all this can be found in 3 Timothy 4:1 and 1 Peter 4:5. I thought I will give this refresher in light of the fact that holidays, but in particular religious holidays, whether they be Christian, Muslim, or Hindu, tend to portray more bashment and beach parties and frolic and entertainment, rather than the meaning behind, the religious meaning behind these holidays. And the solemnity of Good Friday and this whole Holy Week, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and so on. The solemnity is fast disappearing. Now, I could understand in a society that has different religions and so on, that the focus will be whoever is that celebrate that particular religion. I could understand that and so on. But still, all these bashment and so on can go ahead, but they should not be at the expense of the reason for the holiday, especially the religious holiday. So I thought I would give that refresher course, short and sweet. I know priest, I know parson, but at the same time, especially the young ones who might be listening, that refresher course was needed. And there's also a story. There's also a story that people like myself and all others in the coalition, former coalition government, experience, all of us painfully. And that is the whole business of betrayal. Betrayal. As you well know, another Das, this was Judas, and another Das betrayed the coalition government in 2018. So the events of Holy Wednesday, when Judas set the seeds for betraying Jesus on Holy Thursday, so that whole events of Holy Wednesday should serve as some kind of reflection on issues of loyalty and betrayal, and of course the consequences of greed especially by people who are close to you or seemingly close to you, who then break that trust, that bond that would have existed for filthy lucre. In this case, 30 pieces of silver. And we see it a lot going on even today in the political realm. Prior to the elections last year, we saw people under all kinds of pretexts betrayed the party. In almost all cases, the PNC. Because APNU is not a party. APNU is not a party. There are parties in the grouping called APNU. And the bulk of the people who walk in betrayal. Everybody run out, oh, we can't deal with Norton and so on. Norton is just a figure. Norton is not the party. But if you believe in the party, the likes of the Bonhams and so on, heartaches and so on. It wasn't easy when Bonham was trying to build the PNC from scratch, because he started out, he helped form the PPP. And when he broke away, he kept the name PPP, but you had a Bonham PPP and a Jagan PPP. But after the 55 election, he decided to, I done with this Bonham PPP, I'm going to form the PNC. And the PNC, people think is a monolithic. It was never a monolithic party. The PNC was formed out of coalitions. Coalitions formed the PNC. Sir John Carter, later UC Quayana, then known as Sidney King. They came together, PNC. And it wasn't easy managing coalitions. But then, loyalty and cause were way more important than money. And money flowing this time, money wasn't flowing that time. And we see this not only in politics, we see it even in sports. Where everybody say, well, you can't blame the cricketers, they must make money. And all of that, nobody's saying you must make money, but they are making money at the expense of cricket, something that bound the West Indies together. The great Sir Garfield Sobers and Vivian Richards and all of the greats, the three W's and all of them. Did they play for money? Did they live a beggar's life ultimately? But look at the cricket today. Now you have money and the West Indies scraping the bottom of the barrel. Now you have money and the PNC or APNU down to 12 seats. So money now is shaping everything. And money can buy anything. But those who are genuine don't allow money to buy them. But as I said, as they said, when your own dog bites you, right? Something to that effect, bites at or so on. When all of those you had close to you and you trusted them with the guts of the party, and then you find out they betrayed you, they were betraying you, or they betray you by going over to your enemy. Or take your property, your proprietary rights and whatever they earned or they learned while they were there, and fetch it either to some other party or fetch it, saying, the farming new party. The PNC ain't on me. The PPP ain't on me. Everybody free to go where they want. But that is true. Everybody is free to go wherever they want. But what is the ultimate objective? What is the ultimate objective? To get a seat in parliament? to be able to go in front of some television and impress the ambassadors or someplace, to be recognized so you could get a free trip to go someplace? What is the ultimate objective? Everybody costs Granger. But what you cost Granger for? How many presidents you had outside of the PPP? Eh? How many? Only 3. Only 3. Not counting Artichong. Artichong, I'm talking here executive presidents. Only 3. Burnham, President Height, and President Granger. All other presidents were PPP. All other presidents were PPP. And no president outside of the PPP served more than 1 term as executive president. No president. Burnham served 1 term and he died in office. Height served 1 term and he lost office. Granger served 1 term and he lost office. History is not with you, but yet still, you feel that if you cut it up, and you cut it up fine, like celery, it can make you win the presidency. Well, it's clear. It is clear that you don't have the presidency in mind. You have ego and greed in mind. That is what you have. Ego and greed. So everybody now is a Facebook warrior. Every time you get notification, somebody's live. And while you doing all them live and everything else, the party in power getting stronger and stronger and stronger, getting access to more and more money, and then getting more and more encomiums from the diplomatic community, the World Bank. You know, I was reading with sadness in my heart a beautiful interview done by Svetlana Marshall this year, last week on Sources with the American ambassador. And all the praises of Ali and the government in power and all kinds of story. Praises. You could, it was such an advertisement for the government in power. And then, yes, this morning I was reading now the outgoing World Bank country manager. Praises, infrastructure, all kinds of story. When you got those things, look at the barriers you got to face. You already got enough barriers here. And when these people come now praising all over the place and so on, who gonna be listening to you when you complain? Who gonna be listening to you? But you feel how you're going right now is okay. Cut it up like celery. Fine. And they're gonna win you the presidency. But then you're a straight man. Sometimes it'll go off tangent, but you know, it boils you sometimes when you see trained people, educated people talk a load of nonsense. Don't even know what is the aim and the objectives. What is the prize you're seeking? You're seeking opposition leader? That is your prize? You're seeking seat in parliament? That is your prize? I can't believe it. There are not a lot of perks of being a member of parliament. This is not like some members of parliament in other places where you get all kinds of different things. Here's national service. You get a what I call a stipend. This must be about $290-something thousand now. The best thing you got going for you is that you get a duty free to import a vehicle of unlimited CC. And now I see another story brewing. I want to see where that is going to go. Because without referencing that story, I have heard during my time and before of people selling the duty-free concessions. Just like how some poor people sell their house lot. That is why you see in areas designated for poor people, you see some big houses going up. Them houses owned by them poor people. They sell the house lot. Because to them, they know they will never be able to build a house. But if somebody offer them a $3 million, and while they allow them to build on the land and wait for the time, and then they transfer the land to you because you got to wait a period before you could transfer it. That's what they do. That's what they do. So yes, I'm waiting to see where this will go. But I have heard rumors of people selling their duty free and transferring the rights after 3 years if it's a reconditioned car and 5 years if it's a new car. But we'll see where that will go. But like I said, I was off tangent, but I thought it necessary and in context to raise those issues. So we have the the crash grant blues continuing. Now imagine, again I ask, because a lot of people, I have had so many people text me, message me. 2 days ago, an old friend contacted me and said, why are they giving people such problems with app and app? They collected the information from us in 2024, in 2025. Why can't they use that information to pay us? And he offered solutions that I had already offered on this program. In the case of the pensioners, there are 2 extra pages in the book. Pull one the page and pay us our $100,000. There are many pensioners, be they public service pensioners, because public service pensioners retire at 55, right? They retire at 55, and so they have to get a pension as soon as they retire. They have bank accounts. They would have had bank accounts that they would have had when they were employed. You have public service pensioners, you have teachers, you have army pensioners, you have NIS pensioners. So all of those pensioners already got bank accounts. And all pensions, all public pensions are paid from Ministry of Finance. Except to do with the public corporations like NIS and so. But all public pensioners are paid from the Ministry of Finance. And if you could pay public servants, why you can't pay these pensioners, man? Why? Why they have to go through app? The public servants never went through an app. Because you claim you pay them. You paying public pensioners. You paying parliamentary pensioners. I get paid from the Ministry of Finance. Every 3 months I got to carry my life certificate there so I could get my parliamentary pension. Why I have to go and apply through an app when you already pay the public servants? This is unbelievable. It's torture, it's agony. And the people who really need this money are being made to go through this crap. Now you got the minister in the office, the president with responsibility for finance, coming out every so often and telling us what? Telling us what? You paid 48,000 plus public servants. Another 12,000 or thereabout, you said, were able to get past the horrors of the app. And they will soon get their money. That is your thing. So 60,000 people out of a possible 660,000 people have got money. And at this space, You will finish like the Gas to Shore project next year. Not this year when oil prices and everything else hit you. Next year. The app in working. And why I have to have why can't I interface with the app? Why I have to go into some queue and wait for somebody, like if I call in GT&T to report some damage or a fault or some sort of thing, and they line you up in a crew and they got this music going on and on and on and on and on and on, and music going. Are you there? Keep holding. No. Are you there? Keep holding. And then when you say, all right, and then it come to you, you see again the time stretch out again. What is this foolishness? This is what you built? This is what you built? I don't know if anyone you ever applied for Canadian visa. Canadians got the most rigorous application for a visa. It's like writing a thesis. Now, if you can go through that without interfacing with a human being, why I can't, even if you got to do the app, why you have to wait in line for something? Why you have to wait in line and then to do what? To interface with somebody? Well, you can't build an app, ask your name, your address, phone number, bank account. Please upload a recent picture. Good. What more you want? You could match that simple information with the information you collected last year. If you are new, the thing should say, if you are new, then you ask for additional information just to verify. But what is this that you need? All you need, if you got to get an app, is name, address, telephone number, bank account. And then please upload a recent photo. And when you upload a recent photo, you could ask, please upload your ID card, your driver's license, your e-ID card, or a passport. When you asking now, you got to ask for location. Oh, we're not verifying your location. What kind of story is this? What kind of story is this? And the frustration is building and building and building. Yeah? Look at this elderly woman, Shamsundin Mohammed, Kaito News, March 29th. Here's what she's saying. Trying to register on the Cash Grant portal shows Guyana is not fully digitally ready for an exercise of this magnitude. It's leading to frustration. Matching or recognizing the national ID card photo and photos taken on the portal. They're trying to match those two. I tell you already, how old is those there's national ID card? But 16 years ago? Can you imagine you trying to match a 16-year-old photo with one you taken immediately on the portal? Why you have to take pictures on the portal? Why? You can take pictures anywhere and upload the picture. I ask you again, have you ever tried applying for a Canadian visa? That thing has about 13 or 14 different parts. And when you're done, you have to upload this, upload that, upload the tarot, upload the narrow, all kind of things. Upload your marriage certificate, upload your birth certificate, upload your children this, upload your recent picture, upload your passport with your US visa. All kinds of uploading. But never once they ask you to take a picture on the portal. What kind of backward system is this? And I said it here on numerous occasions. Guyana ain't ready for this. And we don't test anything by using a select group. Test it on a select group and then see what will be the bugs and the kinks and so on. We're not ready. We test this thing on that. We bring it and we throw it out there. And everybody run to the portal. It can't take it. Somebody referenced when the affordable care came up and the system crashed. Now, I don't know that the two is the same. Affordable care, you're talking about millions of people without health care who rush in. Yeah, you're talking couple hundred people, not thousand, couple hundred people try to go on the portal immediately and start signing up, and the thing crash or thing working. And it's not the first time. It's not the first time. I told you about the gates, the e-gates that they got at the airport. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't work. The scanner, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't work. And then, of course, they bring out some app the other day for weather, telling farmers how this is very important, all this kind of thing. And just earlier this week, I think, or last week, MP Vince Y. Jordan reported that farmers complained that the weather app isn't functioning. It's not working. But they're forcing you to do things. They're making life so hard, especially in a society where they're still to debunk with statistics that they ain't got 58% poor people in this country with 30-something percent severely poor. They're talking, but they ain't presenting the statistics to show otherwise. And you got these people, many of them without access to a proper phone. I read somewhere, some other lady says, hey, don't use computer. She recognized, she says, I know computer expert, but here, no, I'm using my experience. So I'm telling you, don't use computer because computer may have other programs running behind it and slow down it. She said, use Google Chrome. And all these different things she's telling you. A, like if most people understand what she's talking about. B, like if most people got access to computer. B, like if most people got access to computer with the required space and whatever, as if they got access to Google Chrome, because these things don't come cheap. You have to buy all these things and put them onto your computer. Then, as we said before in umpteen times, you have to have access to Wi-Fi. In the absence of Wi-Fi, you have the access to data. And then you got to pray the Lord that you have a consistent period of electricity. Because once that blackout come, all the thing gone. All the work that you would have done, gone. Gone. All of that you got to do to get $100,000 minus $50. All of that you have to do when at a time when the bulk of the people in this country needs this money to cushion the impact of the burgeoning oil crisis that seems to have no end. We come to that just now. Is this how we want to process relief? Give fast relief? Is this how we want to do fast relief? People punishing, people suffering, and you telling them but app that is not working. And yet at the same time, you tell people, look, don't worry. Don't worry if you don't have a bank account. We'll find ways to get the money to you. Well, if you're going to find ways to get the money, why are you insisting on people getting a bank account? How contradictory. If you already know that there are going to be ways in which people without a bank account will be getting the money, why not have those ways available to people who don't have a bank account, have no interest in a bank account. You're telling them old people, elderly, not old, elderly people, that they must go and open a bank account at their ripe old age of 70, 80, 85, 90. This is what you're telling people? Eh? You're telling people, some of them of little education, some of them of little education, to go and open a bank account, to receive $100,000, and they don't know where the next dollar is going to come from, or we still in a cash society, notwithstanding whatever progress you might have made or you intend to make it with digital wallets and all these things. A lot of talk. You don't get rid of cash. First of all, you ain't gonna get rid of cash even if you have digital wallets. The most advanced country in the world, United States, while paying with cash is increasingly declining, it still can pay with cash because it has not been outlawed. Cash transactions are still recognized. So yes, digital wallets and all these things are important. You find them in Kenya, China, successfully. But even in China, you still have access to money and you can still pay with cash. So while all these things are important, you need to step back. If you want these things to be successfully implemented, we have to have all pieces in place. The legal, first and foremost, the legal. Then you have to have the architectural. Then you have to have buy-in. Then you have to have cultural shocks and so on to get this thing successfully implemented. If nobody see the advantage in it, they're not going to buy into it. Somebody who is accustomed to dealing with heavy cash, especially if they avoid paying income tax and other taxes, they're not about to go to your wallet. And in this country, the avoidance of tax is a major problem, especially by certain categories of workers. The people who really feel the brunt of taxation in this country are those whose monies come out immediately, even before they collect it. And until you could widen the base, take the politics out and widen the base, that is, you will touch all those professionals who are not paying taxes, all those people in the agricultural sector who are not paying taxes, all those people in the small industries and whatever who are not paying taxes, because we have this sympathy thing. Oh, it's a small man, oh, it's a vendor, they're just trying to make a money. But you know, an office assistant gets $100,000 minimum salary or thereabout in the public service. Another one may get 120,000, and that 120,000 is tax. That 120,000 is tax. The so-called small vendor or whoever else makes more than 120,000 and gets and pays no tax. But everybody will be clamoring, taxpayer or not, will be clamoring for improved services. They will be clamoring that the roads bad, the health system bad, the education poor. Why they don't pay teachers more? Why you don't pay teachers more? And you don't want to pay any tax. So the burden falls on those who the government can tax immediately. And that is why public servants and all those other people who pay taxes even before they see their salary, they must get upset, because you have a large number of people who don't pay any tax or who pay little tax. and who avoid taxes right in the eyes, right in front of the eyes of the administrators and the politicians. So that's a big story. You got a cash grant. You got a cash grant. I saw something, I hope it was an April Fool joke. It had Ashley Singh's picture yesterday and something to the effect of, we give you 100,000 or so on. This is not government money. Let us hope that there was an April Fool joke, because this is not government's money. This is not government's money. This is not the PPP money. This is the people's money, not PPP money. You're not doing us a favor. You're not doing us a favor. And were this country fairer in the sense of looking at things before they went out there and vote, we would not be in this situation. But it is what it is. So any condescending talk about we giving you 100,000, you're not giving us anything. And that is why, if this thing is not set out in law, we will forever, they'll forever give the impression that it's charity they're giving us at their behest. So go bravely. And now I see the running now with EID card. Well, all I could say is that, look, unless that thing is compulsory, I advise people keep your ID card and run with your ID card. Unless they make that thing compulsory, don't be too thing about running for go and get any EID card. As long as you got a regular ID card and it's acceptable, that's fine. I don't see what benefits EID card will bring to you. And like, as I said, and you cannot trust this government after last year's fiasco of them acquiring farming information, harvesting information from you, and then turning back to use it for political ends, calling you and asking you to vote for us and all kind of nonsense. You can't trust the government with information beyond the little that is required to get you through the transaction. Cat before horse. You're bringing digital ID, but you ain't got the data protection law in commencement order in begin for that. And like somebody said, even if you got the data protection law in place and the regulations, you perhaps end up like the Commissioner of Information. Because the president will be appointing the data commissioner, and then well, these things don't work. They are nice on paper, but in reality, they don't work. They don't work. And it is rare to find an independent institution in Guyana. So you got all that information in the hands of some commissioner of data protection that has been appointed by the president. And what is the confidence that we will have that an information will remain confidential? What? I see also they're doing it also patient, all your information, they said patient. All these things are good. But in a society that respects privacy, a society that will deal condignly with information leaks and inappropriate use of information, we don't have that society. And we all should be worried and wary of giving any mass information. Date of birth, height, color of eyes, color of hair, address, and name. Anything beyond that, you should guard under lock and key. Or you sell it or give it out at your own risk. At your own risk. Now, the global energy crisis continues, as you know. The war, President Trump had his State of the Union report last night. Don't know that he said anything that should make us feel confident that some state of normality will occur soon. What we see at the global level is that gas prices continue to soar, even as Israel and United States continue to bomb assets, strategic assets in Iran, and even as Iran continues to show resilience by firing and attacking certain strategic assets, especially in the Gulf states. We witnessed this past week gas prices in the United States soaring past the magic $4 a gallon, which didn't happen since 2022. Gas in the United States averaged out at $4.20 a gallon, over $1 more than pre-war prices. And this effect also is being felt in other countries. I read that, for example, in Paris, gas prices average out at $10.27 a gallon. United States cents, not Guyana cents. United States cents a gallon. So that's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. The consequences far outweigh any supposed benefits that they had about starting this war. And then, of course, the objectives that they're trying to achieve keep shifting. Keep shifting. All credible sources indicate that Iran wasn't a threat in terms of nuclear, that Iran was negotiating, and that they were about to agree on most, if not all, of the negotiating points that were put on the table. Yet they were attacked. Now, after that experience, Iran is wary about negotiating to even end the war, because they feel that they're becoming sacrificial lambs. You're lulling them into a false sense of negotiation, bringing them to a table, and then throwing one bomb and killing all their top leaders and so on. Under those circumstances, anybody will be wary, because there's no good faith. There's no good faith. So this war seems to be protracted. There's no end in sight. And the consequences will be dire. Expensive gas, for example, will impact the world economy negatively. It will impact negatively on households, and it will impact negatively on businesses. It will force cuts in budgets where the difference cannot be made up from savings or otherwise. So it will force cuts in budget, and it will force rearranging of budgets. As I said last week, I think it was, think about Guyana. Think about Guyana. Over 30-something% of government's budget is coming from borrowing. A third of the government budget is coming through borrowings already. And this in a country that got 58% poverty. So if the government is forced to cut budgets, let's hope they will cut the roads, which we can't eat, Your Excellency. We can't eat. So I could appreciate you singing the state's mantra. But no, yes, we know you can't eat roads, but think about the farmer who can bring out his produce. And think about cars that can travel now on public roads and so on. Your Excellency, if you're not healthy, you can't travel. If you're not eating properly, you ain't gonna be healthy. If you're not getting access to nutritious foods, you ain't gonna be healthy, Your Excellency. And the roads will mean nothing. If your health, if all the hospitals you're building are not properly staffed and equipped, they will be of no use to you. So it is all well and good to praise the government for all these hospitals. Oh, you go all around the places, they're building hospitals and they're building schools and they're building roads and the infrastructure. And the structure, I was in Mabaruma and I was in Shell Beach, and it's all around. It's all around, Your Excellency. But so is the poverty that you didn't mention. You go all around, you'll see the poverty. You go on the sea walls, they don't have any place to sleep. They're sleeping on the sea walls too. They're sleeping on the Guyana store sheds. They're sleeping anywhere they could get a chance. Regent Street, Border Market. What about those, Your Excellency? What about households that in your Acorn study on long tail, they repeated and they showed where in their survey, many homes are skipping meals. Many parents are skipping meals so that their children could get something to eat. Many households no longer eating fruits and vegetables because they're too expensive. And many people, many households have reverted to eating unbalanced and less nutritious foods because that is all that they can afford, Your Excellency. We know you mean well, Your Excellency, but a picture is not true until all sides are shown, and a picture is not objective unless all issues are put on the table. And while it was good praising the government and praising the relationship that Guyana has with the United States and blah, 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 you in your travels and your daily interactions, Your Excellency, you know situations on the ground also. People can't eat roads. And that is not a thing coming from the opposition, this present opposition. It came from the then opposition, introduced by none other than Jagdeo. People can't eat roads. So it's not new. It's not new. So when the government, if this war persists, is forced to cut budgets, or who knows, they may be forced to borrow even more, because at the moment they are borrowing against future earnings of oil revenues. As you know, borrowing is to the hilt. They've borrowed so much and from so many places and from anybody who's willing to give them a penny. Who knows? They may borrow even more against future earnings, expected future earnings. But whatever they do, it will have a severe impact on especially the poor and other vulnerables in the society. And that, Your Excellency, is what should be uppermost, because it is known that when they can't take it anymore, political instability occurs. And you, Your Excellency, more than anybody else, would not want political instability in the country. So, if this situation continues, as I said, more expensive fuel will increase other spending, of course. From utility bills, right? As you see, GPL, they already have a fuel subsidy. Who knows, they may be forced to remove that subsidy, or government will be forced to give a bigger subsidy to GPL. Because already government is massively financing GPL. And I don't know what is going on at GPL. Years ago, you used to have meter reader. I've not seen anyone reading the meter in recent times. Now they're claiming that they are smart meters. Don't know how smart they are either. And they could read them from in-house. I don't think that is true. Because if they can read them in-house, why some months you still having estimated bills and other months you having actual consumption? All is a guessing game. All is a guessing game. And so, I believe that GPL has tacitly increased either your consumption, because the tariff, if they increase the tariff, you would know. And that in any case, they have to have the tariff increased from the PUC. So I got the feeling that they have increased your consumption without your knowledge. Because like I said, how they are estimating bills, if they could read it in wherever they are, how one time they're estimating bills and another time they're saying actual consumption on the bill. And you ain't got no meter reader. The only people now reading meter is the water people. You see every so often a girl come around and she open the box and so. You don't see no meter reader coming around here reading any meter. So I got a feeling that they have increased your consumption. Maybe check out your bill, and if you could read your meter, check it out. Or take a picture of your meter and take it into GPL in Main Street. In fact, do that every month. Otherwise, they are going to be increasing your consumption without your knowledge. So yes, if this price increase continues, if this spiraling price increase continues, then it will have an effect on other areas like electricity, other utilities. It will definitely have an effect on transportation, as we can see already. I see public works or somebody putting out thing on police warning bus conductors that bus thing that the fares are so on and thing. You know, I still too see the law that is supposedly regulating minibus fares. Maybe there's a law. I don't think there is. And that minibuses don't come under the Public Utilities Commission. So I don't know if it's a gentleman's agreement. But now I see police warning minibuses about fare. So how is it that minibuses got a fare but hire car drivers ain't got none? Could you explain that? Hire car drivers have already increased theirs. This is not an argument for minibuses to increase it, by the way, because when minibuses were enjoying the benefits of zero taxes on fuel and all these different things, they never decreased the fares. So this is not an argument. I am talking here the whole essence of the thing. What are you regulating transportation fares, which means you're regulating both taxi fares and you're regulating minibus fares? Are you doing that? Or you just have some agreement with minibus? Because like I said, I don't know if there's a law that says these are the fares, or that a law that says it's public works who will think these fares. Because the minibus is not going to wait on government as they face soaring gas prices, parts, tires, right? Because tires come from the petroleum sector, right? They're not going to wait on government. They are going to go on strike, or they are going to charge anyhow. And let us be quite honest. A number of minibuses on the road are owned by policemen and other people of influence. A number of minibuses are owned by policemen and other people of influence. And of course, prices of other stuff will go up because, as I said the last time, Guyana is a heavily open economy. Contrary to what people may think, Guyana imports from P to P. From P to P. Everybody knows what I mean, In other words, then, from a little something to a large something. Guyana imports sugar cake. Guyana import hard channel from Trinidad. Guyana import massive machinery for the bauxite sector, and so on. So from that little thing, Guyana imports everything. You name it, Guyana importing it. You name it, Guyana importing it. All those imports now are going to have the effects of price increases in their country. And so now ours over here will be importing that inflation. And again, as I said, they're not waiting on government. Check your grocery list. As you go to the supermarkets, already you will see you are spending way more for the same goods. And those people haven't restocked as yet. So they are gouging you. They are making huge monies on your old stock. And when they have to restock, you will see those prices again will go up. Prices will go up. And they will go up perhaps even more because imports will suffer at least two whammies. One, you'll have the issue of transportation and shipping. Getting the goods to Guyana may be a problem because of shipping issues, disruption of shipping as a result of the oil crisis. Right? So you may have that. And second, the second whammy will be where you can't get the import because other countries now are scaling back exports to satisfy their domestic needs. If grains can be exported, I used this example last time, then farmers in those countries will cut back on grains. And so there's no export, so Guyana can't import grains. So there will be a shortage in those areas. Now, in some cases, we may be able to replace what they can't import from one place to another, but that may also take time. New arrangements, new trading arrangements, and all these kinds of things. It may take some time, and who knows, maybe it may be even more costly than before. But either way, you are going to see the effects of this oil increases in the prices as they seek to restock. And already some industries, like for example, aviation and postal, like DHL and FedEx and all them, they are seeking temporary added charges. In the case of Caribbean Airlines, I read where they have already approached the Trinidad government for massive subsidy. And they have approached their board for approval to charge a fuel surcharge on tickets. Now, you know, once those agreements come through, and whether they come through or not, the airline has to have some way of mitigating the losses that it would as a result of all this jet fuel and all this kind of thing, that and everything else that gone up. That's going to have an impact now on tourism. It will have an impact on tourism. If you price tickets so much out of the reach of average travelers and they can't travel, then that will have an impact on tourism, and it will rebound to the detriment of the airline itself. Airline have to fill seats. If they're not filling seats, then they run themselves into trouble. So you can see airlines cutting non-profitable routes. Now, you take the case of Guyana. I see the aviation minister boasting about we had only how much 4 airlines in 2020, and now we got 16. And we got the likes of Avianca and so on. Now I don't know how much people Avianca brings twice a week. But I would imagine if Avianca is faced with the same thing and they got to cut, they may cut Guyana for the time being. You know, and when I see this also when the crisis hit, Brazil cut their Cruzeiro I think it was Cruzeiro do Sul was their airline or whatever. And Venezuela had an airline used to fly here too, they cut. You know, so you may see all this. Even American Airlines, although they got a full thing coming here, you know, it's a good route for them. JetBlue also, you know, United also, they are all full and so on. So maybe they'll keep Guyana. But you have to have that consideration that this will have the knock-on impact of this foolish war that started. We didn't start it. We didn't have a say in it. But we are going to reap the whirlwind, unfortunately, of it. Now, as I said the last time, if these geopolitical conflicts, like hurricanes, are going to be increasing in frequency and intensity, then the whole debate on climate change and so on may take a different focus altogether. Because I don't think people want to be in a situation where you build your hopes on fossil fuels and so on, and then you have this big, massive blow up, whether it's in Ukraine or whether it's in the Middle East or some other trouble spot in the world, and then you're faced with all these problems with imports of fuel and other things and so on. So I think just like what happened in 96, 73 oil crisis and so on, people may be forced to start thinking about renewables in a different light. Right? So it may galvanize the debate on renewables, which had taken unfortunate backseat with this new Trump administration, right? Who, from the time they came in, they exited the Paris Agreement, right, on the climate change and other agreements that had to do with climate, right? They call it something science, right? And they started mining for more coal and opening more oil sources and so on. So it is clear, if people are going to be faced, countries are going to be faced with this increased frequency of disruptions and so on, that it may serve as a backhand to bring the renewable debate back into focus and with some urgency. Because oil and gas, they're global commodities, and they are susceptible to disruptions, as we can see with this epic fury and Ukraine problem. But oil is imported every day, whereas a renewable such as solar panel, that will use the sun to generate electricity, or an electric car, is a one-off event. It's a one-off event. You import your solar panels, you get it, you get your solar farms and so on, and you trap the natural electricity, sunlight, and turn it into electricity that can now generate for electric cars and so on. Now, I'm not saying that fossil fuel will disappear entirely, but what I'm saying is that the more you can cut your reliance on it, is the less exposed the country will be to all of these price disruptions around the world. And of course, if not before, then this will also accelerate, and it has to move beyond words, your diversification efforts. Now, in Guyana, talk diversification, they got billions of dollars they're pumping into the agricultural sector and so on. And yet you can see 6 years afterwards, going on to 7 years, you can't even see the light of day of this so-called diversification that they're talking about, especially in the agricultural sector. Especially in the agricultural sector. Because when you dissect the numbers, the bulk of the agriculture budget goes to three broad areas. Three broad areas. The biggest of them all is D&I, drainage and irrigation. That's the biggest. Then, of course, sugar, and then rice. Their reasonably big success over the last years has been the growing of corn. Uncompetitive because you could get it cheaper in Brazil, but they have started corn, I think corn and soy. I don't know what is the impact on the local feed and so on, because they haven't been telling you that. And I don't know if you have reached sufficient self-sufficiency as yet. They haven't been telling you that. But the long and short, when you look at our import bill, that bill is climbing massively. It's not declining. And when you look at the manufacturing, especially agro-manufacturing, you get some, but they are cake shop. They're cake shop manufacturing. Yes, you have all these agri-fests and this fest and that fest. And you see somebody got a couple of jars of jam and a couple of jars of peanut butter and so on. But when you go into the supermarkets, they are flooded with imported identical items. Now, what's the sense I am going to manufacture if I have to face that kind of competition? I'm not going to do it. Because if the supermarkets are good enough to give me a little space there on their shelf, they ain't paying me until one of them things gets sold. And if it's not being sold, you think I'm going to manufacture it? And no amount of development bank in that context is going to help you. You could give away all the money that you want, which is what they seem to want to say, and they pull back anyhow recently. because when they were on the campaign trail, they were talking about a development bank with zero interest. They were talking a development bank with what was it? Was it $2 billion? $2 billion. But reality has now stepped home. They only talk about $1 billion now, and they're talking about you have to pay interest after the 3 million, the first 3 million, and so on. This government here, but as I keep saying, you get a government that you deserve. But anyway, don't matter how much cheap credit they give you. If I can't sell it, I'm not making it. And since the government has no food policy, because they think that if you got this open sepulchre, open import program and everything else, Jack says competition. No matter how unfair the Chinese competition is relative to our mom and pop stores, he call it competition. The got to be Russian economics, buddy. If you allow the imports to come into this country freely and given the poorest borders, they come in freely. In other words, then there's some of them smuggling, so they don't pay the import duties and taxes. It creates a double whammy for the local producer. Double whammy for the local producer. Government look into the gas to sure, we're going to talk about it if we get time, to save the day in terms of cheap energy. But we don't longer know that the gas for sure will be any cheaper than the fuel that we're burning here right now. So it's a whole, we don't have a immediate measures, we don't have short-term measures, we don't have medium-term measures, and we don't have long-term measures. What we have is a lot of talk and a good PR program of the government in the form of the two foreign companies that they're paying thousands, hundreds of thousands of US dollars, and their local majorette groups in the diplomatic community and in the international institutions and so on, who are buttressing them, telling the king, the naked king, that he has on clothes, feeding his ego. But when you look at the stats, you look at the economics, you look at everything in this country, what it is that we're getting for the trillions of dollars that we spent over the last 4-5 years, what it is that we get. What it is that we get, that positive. Positive. I live in South Rheinveld. And Aubrey Barker Street from David Rose Street, going west, was done just the other day. I want y'all come, or those who drive on that street, come and see. And that's just a small snippet of what we've been getting. You see it with the Mandela, the Heroes Highway. You see it with the approach to the Demerara Harbor, New Demerara Harbor Bridge. You see it all over the place. That's what we have been getting. But we seem happy about it. You just got to go and see the MAGA, the local MAGAs who follow this government. Nothing is wrong. And what the coalition do for y'all? At least you're getting 100,000. What the coalition give you? That is the MAGAs that you got. And then you got the wannabe MAGAs who will say, well, it's truth, you know. It's truth. It's truth. The coalition give you nothing. And we got to thank the PPP. They give you 100,000. So we got to go beyond the talk. We have to go beyond the talk. We haven't done well in that part. We haven't done well. Over the last week, the two bogies have conspired to work in tandem. So notwithstanding the hydrometeorological office's warning about severe weather and so on, the government broke stick in its ears. Could not show what was done with the billions of dollars that were given to the drainage and irrigation NDIA, but instead blamed, among others, the mayor and city council for the flooding that occurred on Saturday last. Well, I don't know whether the mayor and city council was also to be blamed for the flooding that took place in all them NDCs, for which the mayor and city council got no thing, no control. But yes, the government is good at placing blame at others other than itself. The government controls the purse. Let's be blunt about this. I've been blunt about this in numerous programs. The government wants to control Georgetown. When it came in 1992, it went after Compton Young, who was the then mayor. Compton Young said, "Ah, boy, I ain't able to this, I gone." They then forced onto Georgetown an interim management committee that was headed by Professor Rose. And even Professor Rose, in his honesty, said the taxes that are collected by the mayor's government will be insufficient under any circumstance to run Georgetown. Over 2 decades, the mayor and city council has not had an increase in rates and taxes. Over 2 decades. And the city has been expanding massively, not in geographic terms, but in building terms, with new lands within the city limits being brought into housing or commerce, with frequency of activities increasing such to have an impact on roads. But yet, their revenues have more or less remained stagnant. And you want to blame them. And they got ones who will blame them. Now, we ain't saying that the and city council blameless. As far as they're concerned, a lot of the mayors that they had were incompetent. Incompetent. But having said that, how can you blame overall the mayor and city council for a task that from day one was an impossible task? The government is in receipt. The government has every single card in hand. The city council is powerless. It's powerless to do much. Can you imagine? To make a budget for the city council is dependent on what you think the central government will allow you to do. It is not as if the city council can raise taxes. It requires the government to carry those taxes to parliament, the increases. The courts don't rule that the city council can't increase the percentage rate, because remember, rates are applied on rateable value, and a rateable value is not the market value of the house, nor the price at which you buy the house. The rateable value is computed after a valuation is done in the area. And valuations have not, a valuation has not, the court rule, you can't increase unless a new valuation. And when because there can be two parts of this, a percentage of a rateable value equal your rates payable. So if you can't increase the rateable value because that has to be done via valuation, you will try now on the percentage part. And even that the court rule. Because you're going to end up with a situation where you had maybe 50%, 30% of the rateable value is what you pay. Then maybe you go to 40% and 50. But now when you have to go to 100 and 200, they're going to carry you to court again. And the court going to object to you carrying that percentage to that level. So the city council is in a bind. And when you don't have a government that works with the city council, when you don't have a government that is sympathetic to the city council, when you don't have a government that cooperates with the city council, you will have what you have today, where in one case, many years ago, there was a local government minister who said, let the Georgetown stink, and let the disease. So he was willing to see Georgetowners die of diseases. And maybe he lived to see some of it because the Great Flood of 2005, people die of leptospirosis, and who knows how many going to die from leptospirosis from last week, Saturday's deluge. That is what they want. They will starve you out. They will kill you out until you submit. Imagine Nandalal was bold enough to say, we're going to also take away the open spaces in Georgetown. Not only streets, we can take away the open spaces. Starve them out, and they will submit. And that simple strategy is what the government uses effectively at the wider level. See how many of them running over to PPP? See how many of them wearing the red shirt? They don't wear green shirt when they're there with APNU or with PNC, you know. But as soon as they cross that line, they're in the red shirt. Proudly in their red shirt. Suddenly they're sending birthday greetings. They didn't send none to Oscar Clark or them, but they're sending birthday greetings and so on. There's something about the PPP when they attract these across. But check and see. Check and see. Starve them out, and they will become pliable and submit. And like Judas Iscariot, all you need to do is pay them 30 pieces of silver. Chump change. Chump change in a sea of royalties and revenues out of our petroleum and soon natural gas. Chump change. 30 pieces of silver. That is what they're getting. Some of them not even getting 30. They're getting a brown bag, but it's getting fried rice. That's how they think about you all. So we got the double whammy. We had the flood. I try all kinds of things in this little South Rhineville property I got here. I lift it up, I build it up, I do things to the yard, do things to the fence. But the water still find a way when it floods like last week Saturday to come in, especially in the kitchen area. And there was me bailing water on Saturday, bailing water out. And then what you think happened, as you all know? Yes, you guessed right, blackout. Blackout. So there was me bailing water in blackout. Flood and blackout. Double whammy. Twin whammies. And now the blackouts have returned with a frequency and a vengeance. Every minute is a blackout. Every minute. Whether it's for 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, the frequency of blackout is annoying, nauseating, distressing, and everything else. The blackouts will kill you if you are on oxygen or something that, and you're plugged into something and it requires you, you're dead. You're dead. All them hospitals, the building and so on, and it can't be guaranteed a stable supply of electricity. What do you think will happen to them fancy new equipment? I tell you all about it already. You go to some of them hospitals, they're already telling you perhaps that the X-ray machine ain't working. The unstable electricity blow a fuse. Big fancy multi-million-dollar equipment lying down. But Your Excellency said, oh, you can see the money all around the place. I see schools, I see hospitals, I see roads. And so we were made to feel that this gas to shore business was going to solve all our problems. But it seems not to be. We have, for example, you read in the papers, Kaito News, which is our only papers now, of any worth, that Guyana will be extending the power barge contracts with car power ship. That contracts are costing us in the region of $187 million every day. Yes, you heard that right. The operations and maintenance costs, together with the fuel purchase that the government has to do under the contract. When you put all that together, these two barges costing us $187 million per day. Now think about it after 2 years. These billions of dollars, had they had the foresight, these billions of dollars could have purchased many natural gas generating sets. Twin fuel and natural gas generating sets. So when the natural gas starts flowing, you switch over to natural gas. You don't have to put in new sets. It could have bought many generating sets that could have been put all over this country, not just in Georgetown, Colombia, and so on, all over this country. 46 million US dollars back in 2020 brought 5 Wärtsilä sets under the coalition government. That is what saved us in the early days, because those sets arrived late because of COVID. But that was 46 million US dollars. How much would that be? Now you're talking here in excess of $2 billion. For $146 million per day. Let me see, $187 million per day. I thought I had worked out this figure how much it will cost us over the 2 years since we had it. I thought I'd worked out that. I'm sure I worked it out somewhere, but I can't pick it up now. But yes, but you get the picture. This contract is scheduled to expire in May 2026. But Mr. Kesh Nandalal, who is the CEO of GPL, is now claiming that the delays in the gas to energy project is forcing the contract to be extended. For your information, this gas to energy project was to have come on stream in 2024. Was to come on stream in 2024. At which time it was expected to cut electricity tariffs in half. So we would have been paying half of what we're paying today. But in the event it didn't happen, what happened is that the pipeline, which was executed by Exxon, was completed in December 2024. But unknown to the public, but eventually came out, the government was battling with stabilizing the soil at Wales. They were battling with stabilizing. No project happened yet. Of course, no studies was done about Wales being a site. No geodetic surveys were done. No soil testing, anything was done. So that when they want to implement the project, they found what everybody knew. That soil was unsuitable for heavy industries. It's all sugarcane soil. It was all sugarcane soil. So the government was battling, the contractor was battling with trying to stabilize that soil. It took a whole year, literally, and $100 million more added to the contract of the contractor that the government had to pay. $100 million. And almost a year added on to this gas to shore contract because of stability issues. So this project that should have been there in 2024 and solve all the electricity woes as how the government sold it is now, having been rescheduled many times, is now slated to be available sometime in 2026. But when it becomes available in 2026, it would not be generating the 300 megawatts that it's supposed to generate. Only part of that will be generated. And that the full amount, they say, is not expected before mid-2027. So you're getting this information in drips and drabs, drips and drabs, drips and drabs, drips and drabs. And a project that when it started in 2020, well, when it started under, the studies were done and under the coalition government, that project should have cost somewhere around 0.9, including pipeline and everything else, somewhere between 0.9 billion and 1.2 billion. Now, under the PPP, when the project started in 2022, the cost was given as 1.8 billion US dollars. That would have been $600 million US dollars more than the coalitions. But today, after you add in all the different costs and so on, together with this fact that it was late and therefore you had to hire 2 barges, and so on. My good friend and colleague, David Patterson, estimated that the project will be costing around $3 billion US now. $3 billion US. And still, the government is singing and parroting that it will cut electricity by half. Which tariff will it be cutting in half? The one that is being heavily subsidized already by the government? Or the true cost of delivering electricity to households and businesses? Is that the one that can be cut? You have to be careful, because if it's going to cut the true cost by half, it will effectively mean that you will not be seeing any difference in your bills today, because what you're seeing today is a tariff that is heavily subsidized by the government at the moment. Is it that tariff that they are going to cut in half, the heavily subsidized one, or the true tariff, the one that you should have been paying but you are not paying because it's onerous and burdensome? So now you cut it in half, it's almost equal to what you're paying right now. So we get sell a 6 for 9. But they ain't come out and say it. But I hope now that you're hearing it, we will eventually hear what it is that they're cutting. Meanwhile, as I said, blackouts continue unabated. Electricity bills continue to rise. And in the midst of all this, the government announces another bid for a second gas to energy project. So we don't know the first one. We haven't had experience with the first one. And we're going for a second one with a pipeline that will be longer than even the current pipeline. And that Exxon has already indicated publicly it will cost way more than this pipeline. And we're going to Berbice. This pipeline now going to Berbice, another of our constituency. Every day you wake up, it's a new project in the constituency of the PPP. Maybe all the other areas are going to disappear. Every day, you wake up, they have these one-stop areas. Everyone has been put in a PPP area. The gas to energy, PPP area, notwithstanding the huge cost that will involve. Second gas project, even though we have seen no study on this second gas project, on its viability, on which are going to be the heavy industries, who is going to be interested, and so on. No study, but they're proceeding to gas study, to put a gas pipeline in Berbice. And then the old bogey, the reactivating Amalda Falls project. I mean, I don't know how much more we have to pay for dead projects, for projects that sap money and don't bring benefits. They are pursuing the Amalda Falls project. Now, I don't know how many people are still into hydropower, especially now that solar seems to be cheaper. But so far, they haven't got any takers unless they are putting up the money. And I am going to say it again because I had some involvement as minister. Should they proceed on the Amalda Falls project on the premises that they were doing before, it will be a colossal failure. It will be a colossal failure. And nobody, no investor, because at best what they will get is Chinese investors. And even those investors are not going to move unless they get a full sovereign guarantee. unless the government of Guyana is backing, they ain't about to put any money there. They ain't stupid. That project is going to be a disaster. It has not been studied in any great detail. And where they're trying to depend to get water from, that particular one has not been studied. And that in any case, those studies, whatever has been done, are old. And it will require a whole comprehensive new set of studies about the area and so on, and modeling about weather patterns and so on, before you could even dream about Amalia Falls. But they are the kings. We get 36 seats. Who's y'all to tell us anything? And with our 36 seats, we will do whatever we want to do. So, brace yourself for this ride. Brace yourself for this ride. It's not going to get any easier. And it's going to get very bumpy. Very, very bumpy. It's not for pregnant people, because you may deliver long before you're ready. It's not for old people who got pacemakers and so on. And even the young may find it very difficult to hold on to this roller coaster ride that we seem to be taking on with our oil money. Kadaki, it's raining, and this is Holy Thursday. And there are lots of things to do because places aren't going to open tomorrow. So I have come to the end of another session. I ask my followers and admirers to keep the faith and to commiserate tomorrow, Good Friday, with our Lord Jesus Christ's execution, but to renew the faith in his ascendancy on Monday with our kite flying. Please do so anyhow. Stay safe, and let me bashment afterwards. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan, and thank you, viewers. It is now 27 minutes to the 10 o'clock hour. It's Thursday. It's Holy Thursday. I see somebody said it is Monday, Thursday. The only Thursday that you just get Monday onto, Monday, Thursday. And yes, it's a few days before we have our Easter brunch, and so I'm reminding you to come down and support the brunch from 11 o'clock. Lots of goodies, lots of goodies. I love this golden egg. I can't stop telling you about this golden egg. I love this golden egg. They got other color eggs, but the golden egg is always, don't forget the story of the goose that laid the golden egg. I don't kill the goose, try to get the egg. Right? But so have a good time, have a safe time. Catch up with your shopping, whatever else you need to do. Have a safe Easter weekend. Have a safe Easter weekend. Like I said, we'll be seeing you down here for brunch from 11 o'clock on Sunday. We have lots of surprises, see lots of goodies, lots of fun, and so on and so forth. Come and have a good time. And in case, before I forget, Friends Group of Golden Grove is hosting that pre-Easter Oldies dance on Saturday. Yes, Easter Saturday Oldies dance at Brother Liverpool's residence, President's College Road. Music is by Lexus One Man Band and popular DJs. So go out there and have a good time too, Easter Saturday. But don't go and overdo the thing Easter Saturday and then you gotta come to brunch Easter Sunday. Right? Good. So you can do what you have to do and have a good time and so on and so forth. And as Mr. Jordan was trying to say this morning, was saying this morning, don't forget the reason for the holiday, as we refer to it, the reason for the season. Don't forget this is about the risen Christ and so on and so forth. And it's not about bacchanal and bloodshed and things. It is about peace and reconciliation and resurrection and, strengthening of your faith and things like that. At least show some faith in humanity. Good. I'm out of here. Have a great one. See you on Sunday. Goodbye. Stay safe and be good.